Call the meeting to order. Tuesday, April 10th, 2018, 9 a.m., full county board meeting. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Alt. Anderson. Behrens. Bills. Bowman. Kokenauer. Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy. Lemie. McGinnis. McTaggart. Awful. Persley. Raymond. Shure.
Here.
Sticknot. Whitlow. 2 absent, 18 present.
Mrs. Awful.
Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself. For the measure of health, we need to fulfill our callings. For sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for this assembled council. I am asking that you would graciously grant us wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in our lives and joy in our tasks. I pray for the agenda set before us today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved county of Iroquois. It is in your most blessed name I pray.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone has a copy of the agenda before them. Is there a motion to approve this? Mr. Behrens, is there a second? Mr. Whitlow. Any questions about the agenda? All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion is approved. Everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes from the March 13, 2018 recess session. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Mr. McTaggart. Mrs. Awful seconds. Is there any questions about the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. All opposed, same sign. Our motion is approved. Payroll. Mr. Crumweedy, is there a second? Mr. Bowman, any questions about the payroll? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Anderson. Behrens. Bills. Bowman. Kokenauer. Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy. Lemie. McGinnis. McTaggart. Awful. Persley. Raymond. Shure.
Yes.
Sticknot. Whitlow. Alt. 19-0.
That motion's approved 19-0. Public comments.
I have one.
Please come forward, ma'am. Yes. State, you have 5 minutes. State your name.
All members of the board, Melissa Sings,
Hello, members of the boards and fellow citizens. My name is Emily Donahue. I've been a resident of Iroquois County, specifically Watseka, since 2007. I enjoy a mid-of-the-century home close to IMH with my husband, children, and our dog, Penny. Penny is why I am here before you today. Prior to Penny, we had a dog named Missy. She was a spunky dog who gave us years of unconditional love. Unfortunately, cancer took over her body. Then came Penny, and she has been an extraordinary dog and a therapeutic dog for the family. I recently rescued a dog that we decided to make a permanent part of our family, Huxley. Huxley's not quite a Penny. He's a bit more curious than Penny and managed to spring them both from a compromised area in our fence, which we have fixed yesterday. A gentleman a few houses down from us saw the dogs running loose and watched Penny almost get hit by a car. He tried gathering them both, but only got Penny. Huxley took off. Although he posted her on Facebook, he also called the animal control on the back of her tag. Remember I said that she had a tag. I will return to that in a moment. Penny comes from a rescue group where she was found emaciated, feeding her 8 puppies in a van in a campground. She made Fox Channel News, and she has been the joy of our household. When I realized who had the dog after we corralled Huxley back to our house, I called Erica. She badly wanted to return Penny immediately, but said she had to call her boss. Erica was very personable, and on the phone with her, I felt like I knew her forever. Definitely somebody that I like providing a service for our community. I begged her to let me pick up Penny. She said that she had to call her boss and that she would love nothing more than to return her to me. Her boss, being the animal control director, Dr. Yusuf, said no. Then the hard part came. I had to let my daughter know that Penny was not able to come home with us until the morning. What I fear is that the powers that be do not factor the human element in their equation when considering the structure of our community animal control. Lexi and I both suffer from anxiety, and Penny sleeps with her every night. I literally wiped her tears from her eyes as I said goodnight to her, knowing that her dog wasn't going to be beside her. Penny was in the care, and I use that term lightly, for approximately 14 hours of Dr. Yusuf, the animal control director. When I picked her up, she took 2 steps outside and had to relieve herself. I'm suspicious she was never let out the entire 14 hours. She cried the whole way home. Once inside our home, she dashed straight to the food and water bowl. She drank all of the water until it was completely gone and then ate her food. I'm suspicious that she did not get appropriate amount of food and water. What was the charge I paid for this trauma, undue stress, and substandard care? $115. I asked for a breakdown of the charges. $85 goes to the animal care officer. Wow. I wonder if our teachers know they could forego the thankless hours of molding our children and our future to make that kind of money picking up dogs. But back to topic. I was also charged 2 days of boarding from Dr. Yusuf for 14 hours. 14 hours that I begged not to happen in the first place. I told you we would revisit the tags that Penny had. Our system needs to be tweaked at the very best. I did my due diligence. I have my dog updated on all shots. She has had her rabies county tag, and she is microchipped. Why are we required to register our dogs with the county and then not reap any benefit from it? Why have we not equipped our AC officer with a scanner? She could simply scan a chip, return the dog, and send a citation. With a system like this, I would have had our therapeutic dog back in our home within a few minutes, and everyone would win. I am charged a fee from the AC officer for doing a service. She gets paid for a member of our family returned. Everyone wins. All is righted. Make no mistake, this is not about the money. This is about the family system. This is about the faulty system. Even if you deemed it reasonable to return all or any portion of my fee, I would not take it. I would ask that it be paid forward to the next victim of this absurd structured regulation we are forced to adhere to. My family fortunately can afford the fee, but most of our community cannot. So for those who cannot pay when their dog gets loose, they are being shipped off to Danville, a kill shelter. When this occurs, no one wins, no one gets paid, no family gets to enjoy the dog, and the ugliest part of it all, a precious animal loses its life. How is this in any way a system that works? So I stand before you today simply to bring to your attention that my penny experience just made me advocate number one to bring about change, positive change, to our animal control system. I will research and use every resource I can find to spotlight this problem. You are elected officials and thereby responsible to represent your constituents in what is best for us, to echo our call for improvement, to hear us out, not shut us up, to seek out corruption, not cover it up. I will go through the proper channels with respect to be added to your next meeting agenda. We will have people with us. You will each receive in writing questions that our community and I would like to have answered. In addition, each of you will receive a statement of our concerns, requests, and ideas, and personal experiences with animal control that were less than satisfactory. Some of the questions we will include, but not limit to: does this county pay Dr. Youssef for services in addition to his boarding fees he charged me? Does the county monies go to euthanizing animals? Do you take bids for service? Did you post an AC director position available, accumulate resumes, interview, and pick the best option for us? How many animals does Dr. Youssef allow to have in accordance with his business? Is this why he offloads the dogs he impounds so quickly? Does the state allow a private vet and animal control to coexist in the same building? Does a police officer need to authorize AC to pick up a dog? Because, incidentally, in my instance, ICOM was never called. Does Dr. Youssef and or the county hold proper and required license with the state? Has the county done their due diligence to ensure Dr. Youssef's building is up to code and all animal waste and refuse is disposed of properly? Who are the powers that be in charge of setting the impound fee, and was Dr. Youssef authorized to add an additional personal fee? And is that fee reported to the federal government in an appropriate manner, separate from his personal business? We reserve the right to implement the Freedom of Information Act to gather information as we move forward. Until then, please, officials, please, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I beg you to take careful pause. PAWS. People in your community are very passionate about their pets. In closing, I leave you this thought: a penny for your thoughts. Mine's worth a lot.
Any other public comments this morning? I'm going to read a letter that I received yesterday, dated April 9th, addressed to the Iroquois County Board, to my attention. It says, please consider this my notice of resignation of my position as Finance Director for Iroquois County. I'm giving a 3-week notice, or 15 work days, with a final work date of April 27, 2018. Thank you for the opportunity to work for the citizens Iroquois County for the last 6 years. I am more than willing between now and April 27 to assist in any way possible with the transition. As signed, sincerely, Anita Speckman. In light of this development, this morning I'm appointing a search committee to begin the task of finding a replacement. That committee will consist of Michael McTaggart as the chairman, Kyle Anderson as the vice chairman, Russell Bills, Charles Alt, Donna Crow, Daniel Raymond, and Troy Crumweedy. I would recommend that the committee meet briefly after this meeting is over so that the process can begin as quickly as possible. Next, we'll go to outside organization reports. Mr. Baragry.
Good morning. I'm Ken Baragry. I'm the Executive Director of the Iroquois Economic Development Association. We are not a county committee. We are a nonprofit, but we are supported financially and with encouragement from the county board, many businesses and communities. For the past couple of months, it's been pretty much dealing with the aftermath of the flood. Right, Eric? I got a comment here that kind of sums things up a little bit. I was presenting some of the award checks from, we have a fundraiser, memorial fundraiser for my son, Brett, for raising money to get education for firefighters and paramedics. And when I was presenting a check to, actually to some of the Watseka firemen, I was telling him what a great job they did during the flood, and I thought his comment was pretty appropriate. He said, well, we did do a good job, but that's the problem. We're getting so good at it because we do it so often. I think that's something that we need to continue to attack. From a business standpoint, from my eyes, the bulk of the damage was in to the businesses in Watseka. I heard it said a number of times that not too many businesses were hurt this time. We all know the obvious ones, but I know of at least 20 businesses in Watseka that actually had water inside their premises. That's more than just a few, and it's still not the whole story. How about you talk about hurting businesses, how about the businesses that were so isolated that customers couldn't get to them? That hurts too. What about the businesses that were still able to remain open, but there was no traffic going by? That hurts too. It hurts any time that a business loses normal expected sales. But I guess I don't know the answer. We're all working on that, but we have to keep the pressure on to find some answers to some of these things because our business folks are losing incomes, their employees are losing incomes. Spending rollover, the multiplier effect is disappearing on the dollars that would be spent, and we're losing tax dollars, and we're losing people. Still, the area reputation continues to suffer. It reminds me of one of the friends I got that drives a truck, and he said he was at a truck stop up north, and they said something about getting directions to go here or there, and he said, no, don't go through Watseka. They close that road down there every time they have a heavy dew. So, I mean, it's just not a good thing to have to listen to. And we're still losing a few residents again too. There's a few more people moving away. We got to stop that. It's almost like a snowball getting bigger. I'm on the Iroquois County Long-Term Recovery Committee. In fact, John and I are both on the executive committee, and there's some good things happening there and some even better things being talked about. But we're facing a pretty rugged future down the road if we can't find a way to turn some of these things around, especially the exodus of the people out of the county. I started doing this job in the fall of '07, and within 4 months probably we had a 100-year flood. It was almost unprecedented at the time, and there were dozens, if not hundreds, of people that worked many, many hours helping the area recover. But it was worth it, right? Because we had a 99-year credit coming. It was a 100-year flood. Right. A few people moved away. A few businesses closed. Economic growth was absolutely near zero for a couple of years. But things finally started to look a little bit better.
and we got even a few good things happening if you think back. But 7 years later, not 99 years, mind you, but 7 years later, we had back-to-back massive floods in the winter of 2015. You remember it was so bitter cold then. Kevin, you'll probably remember it. You were sitting out there keeping people from going here and there. It was so bitter cold that it was just miserable. You'd have thought that after that we'd have caught a break of some kind, but here we are in 2018 again, right back where we were in 08. If we all have any smarts at all, I think we have to realize that things have changed around us and that this is going to be more the norm every few years than a 100-year deal. So we need to start finding some solutions. John and I have tried to discuss it from a county standpoint. It's not isolated. Any community in our county that gets hurt hurts the whole county, and we can't just sit back and watch everything that makes Iroquois County home all get washed away by the rains. You probably remember that I told you, I think it was midwinter, I told you that the Bosch building was listed for sale for $250,000. I proposed at that time that they donate it to the city of Watseka. We had a prospect and waiting. They decided at that time they weren't interested in donating. There was an open house walkthrough mid to end of February, and there were at least 3 prospects that I know of that went through. 2 were real viable, and the 3rd one was interested, but then Noah had to start building the ark. It started raining. One of the prospects remained real interested, and I even, after I discussed the history of all the flooding and that, because I was on the phone with that guy the day that it was raining, and it just kept raining and kept raining. And after we talked about it, he remained interested. The other one had some second thoughts, I think. He remained a little bit interested, but he came down, I guess he came down to try to check things out and couldn't get to town, so he thought that was not a good thing. So what did the new bank that owns it, what they decide to do? They had a few prospects, had some people inquiring on it. Apparently they decided to raise the price. Now if you look online, it's $350,000. Well, at this point, like I say, we got prospects, but at this point, it could very well be that the folks holding the paper on that might end up having to suffer through the same fate as the arrogant, and I think they were arrogant, bank that owned the Howard Industries building down in Milford. They may have to tear it down and deal with the EPA. That bank turned down a $500,000 offer that I took to them. Probably cost them another $500,000 to tear it down and clean up the mess. And if you recall, their representatives were here in this very room asking to be released from liability for potential well problems around the site. But getting back to the Bosch building, it needs at least another $1 million probably to put into rehab to get it back to viable again. I would imagine that most new owners would spend even more than that. The building is too short for today's warehousing, but the main prospect out there would not be a warehouser and would be an employer, so I'm still praying. There would be a few little EPA problems, but they're mostly minor, and they'd have to be considered, but hopefully something can come to pass out there, because if you grew up here, Dan, you're familiar with UARCO all your life like me. If you grew up here, you remember that it once was a really beautiful state-of-the-art printing facility. And that could be a beautiful facility out there again if some money's spent on it. But we need to close one of these deals really, really soon, or it's going to end up being a not-so-beautiful white elephant. A couple of miscellaneous comments, mostly flood again, but a couple of businesses are wanting to move to new locations. We're trying to find some spots for them, but at least they are not planning to leave. They just want to get out of the water. Another one has decided to shut down, but that was considered before. They'd been chatting about it, but the flood kind of forced the decision. The gas station out there on the west end, I think it's called the Gas Depot, they were going to not reopen, but guess they're reconsidering. They're working on it, trying to clean it up. Another business was leaving, but we managed to sit down and brainstorm a little bit, and they decided they're going to try to stick it out. I think that the owner of McDonald's wants to rebuild, but that's a huge decision he's facing out there. I don't think it's the decision's been made yet. In other words, the jury's still out on anything happening there. I did have an inquiry about the KFC building. I provided them a bunch of information, and they are aware of the flooding situation. I'd love to see those lights come back on, too. That's one of the most visible buildings in town as you come in. I was disheartened, saddened, I guess, to see Louie and Chris get flooded out at Vips so quickly after they tried to open the thing, but they were back in business quick. All the employees out there pitched right in, and they got back to going. I have a positive non-flood note. I provided a packet to one business person, one of the small business booster loans, our revolving loans. It was not from Watseka. Just as a reminder, Watseka and Narga both have their own revolving loan monies programs. So anyone that would be looking there, I would first go to them, and the county can loan money in those cases, but that would not be the normal process. I guess one more topic. I'm sure that you probably heard or read that the Union Pacific Railroad has announced that they're going to spend over $100 million in track and bridge maintenance in Illinois. The company's rail service does run between some industrial parks and enterprise zones. Enterprise zone, which maybe we should probably revisit sometime. One of their major projects is a plan to replace 49 miles of rail on the old C&EI, the old Chicago and Eastern Illinois lines. Run south from Chicago between Chicago Heights and Watseka. And it includes some sections that I guess are considered by some investors as ripe for development. I know I have had discussions in the past with a couple of different Union Pacific representatives, but that's as far as it went, discussions. I'm hoping maybe that this new money that they're going to spend might be a catalyst to start those discussions again, and maybe they would be more fruitful, productive. But a few things are happening. When it dries out, we'll get right back at it. Any questions? Yeah.
Ken, are you aware of a new business that opened up a month ago here in Watseka? CR Cafe, it's a restaurant.
Yes.
I just was wondering because I hadn't heard you mention it.
Oh, sorry.
And also no city mayor or anybody's been in to welcome her, so.
They haven't?
Nope.
Well, I'll carry that message
Thank
forward,
you.
too. Thanks for the comment. Anybody else have a question?
Any other outside organization reports this morning? Chad?
I've got two. The ICANN Education Committee met March 15th. We meet quarterly, and basically the committee just kind of provides the county oversight, and most of the monies that Iroquois and Kankakee provide to ICANN support the staff and support their everyday functions. The majority of what they do is funded from the state, and so, but they provide inspections. They're going to be gearing up and starting their life cycle building inspections. They are now located in the old Kankakee Area Special Education building right across from Speedway. So if you have anything related to ICANN, substitutes, we're still short subs. All you need is a bachelor's degree, and they can help you with the background check and how you fill that out. But if you have a bachelor's degree, we need subs. Same thing with bus drivers. You don't have to have a bachelor's for that, but they are extremely short-handed bus drivers and substitute bus drivers. So if if you need some employment, pass that word on. So the next part is the Iroquois County Community Mental Health 708 Board. This is the board that oversees the property tax that's collected to help support mental health. It is not a county board committee, but it is a county board. So this is the first report that the board has done in many, many, many years, I think ever, trying to get in compliance with the current state statute of providing the annual report to the county board. So basically, the citizens of Iroquois County back in the early 1970s created the Iroquois County 708 Mental Health Board, which there's about 14 counties that have a mental health board. So if there's a positive for Iroquois County, this is one of those huge positives that we need to market. We care about our people. Generally, roughly $585,000 a year is collected through property taxes, of which the 708 board distributes all of that to the Iroquois Mental Health Center, which is not part of Iroquois County or Iroquois Memorial Hospital. It's its own entity, and they provide mental health services. Mark Thompson is the Iroquois 708 board chairman. As far as the budget that was approved, we budgeted $585,000, and of that, $550 will go towards the Iroquois Mental Health Center, with $500 being kept for contingency and for publications because we have to publish this report. We expect to have, at the end of the year, $5,372 left in the account. So what I want to get to, and if any board member wants a copy of this, I can email it to you. I will leave a copy with Lisa for the record. But the Iroquois Mental Health Center, in the past year with our support, they help provide support for the Iroquois Coalition of Change. They provide psychiatric services at the facility on a weekly basis. They also instituted gambling addiction services. The state has provided some grants to help with gambling addiction in Iroquois County now that we have all the machines. So flood response, IMHC participated. They provided 89 contacts of crisis services at the Red Cross shelter. They also helped at the 2-day multi-agency resource center, and they have a list of people to follow up with from these contacts just to do some long-term checks on them, 30 days, 60, 90, just to make sure that they're doing okay. Grant opportunities, they're also reaching out to get some more grants through United Way of Kankakee and Iroquois County, and also the Community Foundation of Kankakee Valley. They're asking for some support to enhance the child and adolescent playrooms in Watseka and at Clifton. So they have some satellite offices throughout the county. They also are in Kankakee and some other counties, and the size of IMHC, because of their growth, it will help provide better services to residents here that need it. The accounting firm Kemper CPA Group assessed how much our money helps. For Iroquois County residents, there were 17,636 service hours that were provided to Iroquois County residents, which equals out to $32.32 an hour. That represents just shy of 1,200 people, that residents that they helped, that this money has helped. So that's approximately $483 per client. About a third of their budget relies on this funding. So the funding's critical. One huge good news story that they're just now started, they started in FY 2017, is individual placement and support services. In 2017, 112 residents, they helped find jobs, and that represented 9 employers in the county. This year to date, and their calendar year starts January, They've already got 48 Iroquois County residents provided with jobs, and that represents 15 employers in the county and 4 outside the county. So they're, and individual placement support services, they work with the employer and they work with the person that has mental health disabilities, substance, whatever, and they counsel, they provide everything to help them. So it's a good news story. I thought that was cool. And then on the last page, IMHC also wanted to include their goals, and I'm not going to go through it, but if you want it, you know, I can email it to you. But that is the first report, and hopefully it will continue so we comply with state statute. This also will get sent to Rep. Bennett and Senator Barrickman, because the statute also says we have to let them know. So trying to get us going forward with compliance. But good group. IMHC is doing good things for the community, and hopefully we can keep moving that forward. So with that, if you have, like I said, if you want a copy, just email me and I'll send it to you. So thank you for your time. And I just want to also say, Anita, thank you for all you've done. You've done wonderful things. I hear it. I've heard it from people up in my district. You'll be missed, but thank you. From all of us, I'm sure I'm echoing what a lot of people say, so thank you.
Any other outside organization report this morning? Seeing none, we'll move on to the committee reports. Members of the county board, your committee to whom was referred policy and procedure would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on March 29, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were County Board Chairman John Scher, Lyle Behrens, Russell Bills, and Marvin Sticknoth. Dan Raymond, Kyle Anderson, and Troy Crummeedy were absent. Also present, Finance Director Anita Speckman, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Treasurer Mindy Coons-Hagan, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, County Engineer Joel Moore, ICPHD Administrator Dee Shipper, EMA Director Eric Stacy, 911 Director Eric Raymond, and County Board Member Charlie Auld. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Marvin Sticknoth and seconded by Russell Bills to approve the agenda. That motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. The committee chairs gave their monthly reports. Highway Chairman Russell Bills reported the Highway Committee will open bids for road work that was discussed last month. Management Chairman Lyle Behrens reported the Judicial Committee will receive their monthly reports. The Management Committee will discuss office space and the jail parking lot. Tax Chairman Marvin Sticknoth reported the committee will receive department head reports. EMA Director Eric Stacy reported he is continuing to work on flooding issues. The preliminary damage assessment with IEMA and FEMA teams is complete. There were 355 homes affected, 217 homes with minor damage, 97 with major damage, and 1 destroyed throughout Iroquois County. In terms of public assistance, Stacy has estimated over $600,000 in damage costs for the county. Stacy will submit his estimates to the state. We have surpassed the minimum needed for Iroquois, but the state needs to reach $18.7 million. Stacy does not anticipate Iroquois County reaching that amount. Stacy informed the committee that muck-out operations are still ongoing. Stacy is gathering additional volunteers to be trained. Stacy is working with the National Weather Service to host a severe weather tabletop exercise. No date has been set yet. Stacy has also begun updating the hazardous material mitigation plan. County Board Chairman John Scher spoke about the matter of the Finance Committee minutes not being approved at the March 13 board meeting. Scher discussed the matter with State's Attorney Jim Devine and was advised that because nothing was transacted at the meeting, it is considered a non-event because the minutes were not approved. Further research Sure has done advises minutes to always be approved. Corrections should have been made where necessary and then approve the minutes. Discussion was held on why the minutes were not approved and whether reports given at the meeting should be given again. Sure stated when voting on minutes, you are voting to approve what occurred during the meeting. You are not voting on whether or not you like what was said during the meeting. The matter will be discussed further with Devine. The job description for 911 Director Eric Raymond was distributed. Finance Director Anita Speckman also provided job descriptions for other county employees as a comparison. Raymond informed the committee the original job description that was distributed has not been approved by the ETSB board yet. It was sent to the Policy and Procedure Committee for necessary changes and approval. Sure suggested the committee review the job description given to them today and approve it at next month's meeting. Also, Speckman recommended Raymond speak with her regarding the job description's physical requirements. It was moved by Behrens and seconded by Bills to enter into executive session at 9:35 a.m. pursuant to the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of the public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. That motion carried by a roll call vote. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Behrens to come out of executive session at 10 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. It was moved by Behrens and seconded by Sticknoth to set the salaries for the county clerk, treasurer, sheriff, and circuit clerk at a 2% increase each year for fiscal years 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. Sure spoke about the Illinois municipal auditing law that was discussed at a prior meeting. He stated the law applies to townships and municipalities but does not require any action by the county. The committee agreed not to take any action. Sure reported upcoming appointments include Charlie Alt being reappointed to the 911 board and Bob Yergler being reappointed to the Supervisor of Assessments position. Correspondence was distributed to the committee, including a letter from Microgrid Energy regarding solar development on the county farm. The letter will be discussed at the Management Committee. The committee reviewed the claims. SACY submitted flood-related claims to the committee. These claims include Hiltz Portable Sanitation, Watseka Animal Hospital personnel time and travel for Watseka Animal Hospital staff, and Fastenal totaling $5,986.71. Discussion was held on payment of the claim to Fastenal and whether the city of Watseka should be responsible for a portion of the bill. Sure plans to have conversations with the city of Watseka as he doesn't believe the entire burden should fall on the county. It was also noted these flood-related claims are not included in the budget. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Behrens to pay the claims, including Fastenal, in the amount of $3,505.05, and to pursue cooperative efforts for repayment, subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Sticknoth and seconded by Bills to adjourn at 10:28 a.m. That motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its, signed by all members present, and I move for its adoption. Russell Bills, second. Are there any questions or comments about the report? Mrs. Crowe.
I have about 3 questions. 2 of them are points of clarification. Mr. Sacy?
Yes.
It says, we have surpassed the minimum needed for Iroquois. Oh, I'm sorry, I reread that. Never mind, answered my own question. So,
That was easy.
That was easy. The second one, John, on page 2, where it says it was moved by Barron's and seconded by Bills to go into executive session, do you think we need to add the citation to that, the ILCS citation? There is one, right?
That's what yes, there is, and I actually read that part of it.
Right, I
Just
understand,
didn't have
but-
the numbers in front of it. We can
We
make
can
that
add
correction.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is the discussion part. I'm reading this last paragraph on page 2 about not approving the minutes. And when it says that we're voting on minutes, you're voting to approve what occurred during the meeting. And I understand that to be true, but when you go on to say you're not voting on whether or not you like what was said during the meeting, I don't think that's quite accurate, because we are voting on issues. For instance, just as an example, if the proposed increase to the elected officials today was 10%, and I thought that was excessive, I would certainly vote no based on that issue, and not just whether the minutes were correct from the meeting. So I find some inconsistency there.
Well, let me explain one thing. That sentence probably is not describing accurately what I had said or what I intended to say. If there's something in the minutes that you disagree with, as in the example that you just gave, that should be corrected in the meeting before the vote is taken to approve the minutes. In other words, the minutes are then corrected from the action that you would take during the meeting.
Well, I understand that, John, but I'm never going to agree with 10% increase for the elected officials. So I don't think we can correct that in a meeting. We can discuss it, and we're going to vote, and it's either going to be accepted or not accepted. Or you can take it out that way.
Right. That's exactly what we're trying to say.
Okay. But I still disagree.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Mr. Bowman?
Could you explain what the bill is for Fastenal?
It was for some personal protective equipment. I call them suits, or I don't know if I can describe it accurately, but it's like a head-to-toe suit that you put on, like a coveralls. They're usually white in color. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Johnson?
I just wanted to clarify if we decided where those animal cages that we might need again, where did they go for $619?
That wasn't discussed at the meeting. It's
So-
not in the report here.
So we don't know where they're at?
It's not a part of the report that we're talking about.
Okay, thanks.
We can talk about it in their old business today if you'd like. Anyone else? Mr. Anderson?
What was the reasoning for going into executive session? I know it's for the salary, but does it need to be in executive session? Just trying to figure out if we're going to discuss it at all. Probably could or should. Go back into executive session, just discuss it out.
We can do that if you like.
I don't like executive session at all.
I think the reason for going into executive session was some anticipation of what direction the discussion might take, and whether some of that information would be better handled there or not. That's basically what my recollection is and the reasoning for it. So.
Sheriff, you want to tell us what you told finance now in open session, or
As far as,
presentation for the raise?
I think everybody got that in their mailbox. I was not at policy, and had I been there, I wouldn't have been able to participate in the discussion anyway due to the executive session.
I brought up is I've looked at just within county government, department heads, whether they are appointed or elected officials, and what their compensation is comparable to employees that they supervise or manage. And there is a discrepancy at the sheriff's salary, primarily because, for those of you who weren't here in 2010, the sheriff's salary, along with the other elected official salaries at that time, was frozen for 4 years. Up until that time, it was maintaining a little bit above a lieutenant's salary. Because of those 4 years of no raises, and actually that salary stayed the same from December 1 of 2009 through November 30th of 2014, so it was almost 5 years the salary stayed the same. The FOP, or the deputies, sergeants, and lieutenants increased each year over that time to the point where it is now, where there's about a $7,700 or $7,800 discrepancy between those. I brought that to the finance's attention, and just that the proposal that has been made out of policy with that 2%, right now it's about a $7,700 or $7,800 discrepancy between the senior paid employee at the sheriff's office and the sheriff. At the end of those 4 years, it's going to go to about $10,000 difference. So I wanted you all to be aware of that. I don't know in the future what type of, I don't want to be sheriff forever. So there's going to be somebody sheriff after me, and I don't know if there's such a discrepancy in salaries at that point, if that's going to prevent some very viable, worthy candidates to run for that position based on that economic interest. It may, it may not, I don't know. But my guess is most people who are going to take over, right now a $1.7 million budget and 24 employees are probably going to want, to be compensated for that compared to the people that they supervise. So that's what that was for. That's how the discrepancy came about. In the past, it was about a $2,000 raise a year. Had that happened over those 4 years, you wouldn't be in the board wouldn't be in this position right now where there's a $7,700 discrepancy between the two.
Anyone else have any comments?
Are we able to pull it out of pull that paragraph out?
Yeah.
The legality, I just want to make sure, if I made a motion to remove it for separate consideration, does it immediately go back into executive session? How do you want it?
You can remove that paragraph for separate consideration. I guess my thought would be consider sending it back to the committee. We have until May 13th, as I understand it, meet the 180-day minimum. Our next board meeting is May 8th. So we have some time in order to give this matter further thought.
I just did the election, sorry John to interrupt, but the election is November 6th, and I just counted on the calendar while we were sitting there, and we would be 182 days out next full board meeting.
Election's on the second Tuesday in November, is it not?
I Googled it and it said November 6th, which I would assume it should be the 13th, but for whatever reason, Google and my calendar, iPhone, is telling me it's the 6th. Either way, we would be within the 180 days.
Do you know for certain the date, Lisa?
I don't off the top of my head know what the date is. I think it's the 6th, but I'm not positive.
Even from the earlier date, we would be within the 100, or we'd be within the parameters at the next board. That was what we wanted.
All right. I guess my thoughts are that I was out of town all last week and unfortunately didn't have an opportunity to participate in this, but from what I've heard since I got back, it sounds like there may be a need for some further discussion. I would have to say that the action that the Policy and Procedure Committee did, I think, was more intended to get the ball rolling and set something in motion for discussion and so forth. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So
Then I make a motion to remove the paragraph, it was moved by Barron's, talking about the raises, and send that back to committee for separate consideration.
Or second? Mr. Bowman, second. Are there any questions or discussion about the motion? Everybody's happy.
There's enough days.
So
We counted.
I did 3 times, but somebody better double check my math. Well, so assuming it's November 6th, there'd be 182 days back to May 8th. Our next full board. I agree that it should be the 13th, but for whatever reason, it says the general election on the 6th.
You want me to run down and find out?
We could just double. Then we have
If it's the
more-
same either way, doesn't matter.
We have more days if it's the 13th.
Is there any other questions or discussion about the motion? Seeing none, the clerk can call the roll, please.
Barron's. Bills. Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer. Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
No.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes?
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
No.
Alt.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Twelve to 7. Motion carried.
Okay, is there any other further discussion on the remainder of the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Bills. Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer. Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes?
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Barron's.
Yes.
19-0.
Motion's approved 19-0. Finance Committee, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom is referred finance would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on April 5th, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present, Anderson, McTaggart, Alt, Bills, Curtis, and Johnson. Dan Raymond was absent. Also present, Finance Director Anita Speckman, Sheriff Derek Hagan, County Clerk Lisa Fanter, Treasurer Mindy Coons-Hagan, Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, EMA Director Eric Sacy, ICPHD Administrator Dee Shippert, Greg Steffen with Compass Insurance, Susie Warner with Homestar Insurance, Roger Bard, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Russell Bills and seconded by Michael McTaggart to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Greg Steffen with Compass Insurance reported on behalf of Randy Schultz, the squad car that struck a deer is back in service. Steffen said they are coordinating with loss control and asked what other departments they should be meeting with besides Sheriff's Department. The committee recommended the Highway Department. Susie Warner with Homestar Insurance reported no updates. The department heads gave their monthly reports. They are as follows. County Clerk Lisa Fancher reported the final multiplier was received on Wednesday. EMA Director Eric Sacy reported the total flood-related damage cost is $674,600.62. Sheriff Derek Hagan reported a retirement in February. A lateral transfer was hired and is now on solo patrol. Hagan is in the process of testing to establish a required hiring list. Hagan distributed a salary comparison to the committee. He explained the sheriff's salary has fallen behind due to the salary freeze that occurred 2010 through 2014. By the end of 2021, based on recommended salary increase from the Policy and Procedure Committee and the FOP increases, the lieutenants will be earning $10,000 more than the sheriff's position. Hagan recommended the board increase the salary just above what a lieutenant is earning and continue each year with annual increases. Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines discussed the decrease in fees and fines. She explained that there aren't as many traffic tickets being written and people are not paying their fines. They are being turned over to collections, which sometimes results in small monthly payments. Hines is also working with the comptroller's office, and anyone owing fines will have their tax return intercepted. Finance Director Anita Speckman reported she received a letter from the IRS stating the $184,000 fine that was assessed to us on our 2015 1095s has been eliminated. The committee discussed funding for arbitrations. Speckman provided the committee with a public safety tax balance of $211,549.38. Based upon the FY18 deposits at approximately $35,000 each month, Speckman said the public safety tax fund balance is expected to be $491,000 by November 30th. In total, $345,000 is needed to cover the back pay and increases through 2018. Speckman said there is also $50,000 budgeted in contingent fund. Speckman expects the completed contract within a month. Michael McTaggart asked Charlie Alt and the 911 board to speak with 911 Director Eric Raymond about grants for equipment. The financial policies will be reviewed as a group beginning next month. The committee reviewed claims. It was moved by McTaggart and seconded by Alt to pay the claims subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Alt and seconded by McTaggart to adjourn at 9:35 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted and signed by all members present, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Finance Committee report. Is there a second? Mr. McTaggart, are there any questions or comments on the report?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could Kyle or Eric give a brief summary on the $675,000 of flood-related damage, what was in that?
I'm asking Eric to do that under old business this morning, so maybe we could wait till then.
That's fine. And I have one more comment. If Anita could give a little more detail on the $184,000 fine that was dropped.
The 2015 1095s, we had to do, those are the new reports under the Affordable Care Act that you have to send to all the employees and forward to the IRS annually. And if you have one employee that doesn't meet what's called affordable coverage, you get fined for every employee, and that's what happened. It was one of our former employees. It was a mistake. It was somebody who had left our employee the year before, and they received an AFSCME back pay check in 2015 for like 20 cents an hour, but then they had to pay the increase in the health insurance portion, employee share. So that kicked them out, but when I wrote the letter to the IRS, sent his resignation, explained the situation, then they said, that's right, it doesn't count. So they said, no worries. Well, not in that way, but.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on the report? Mr. Bowman?
I just have one question. Is it the intention of the committee to take all the money out of the public safety tax to pay the arbitration?
We're still looking for more money. And it'd be nice if we didn't have to, but it's a big sum of money. I'm sure we're going to have no contingent money left. That's where that 50 will go.
In regards to that money, has there been any talk in doing it over time?
They're writing the contract now, or they're
Okay.
our attorneys, our attorney, labor attorney, and their attorney are going through it. So
I mean, there's other options.
Mrs. Crowe?
Our attorney being given.
him, and yeah, not the other one.
The 50,000 contingent, is that the 50,000 we set aside for this particular
Well,
purpose?
no.
Did we set an amount aside for this particular?
That was in FY17.
Yeah, when-
In FY18, we did not budget anything for this.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer. Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy. McGinnis. McTaggart. Awful. Persley. Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot. Whitlow. Alt. Anderson. Barron's. Bills. 19-0.
Motion's approved 19-0. Management Committee report, Mr. Barron's.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Management Services would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on April 2nd, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Barron's, Alt, Hasbargen, Johnson, McGinnis, and Awful. Kevin Bowman was absent. Also present, Finance Director Anita Speckman, ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert, Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake, Jason Myers with Johnson Controls, Superintendent of Veterans Assistance Jennifer Ingram, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Charlie Alt, seconded by Barb Awful to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Jason Myers with Johnson Controls distributed a preliminary analysis that was created during their building walkthrough. Each building can utilize savings by upgrading lighting. The courthouse has an HVAC equipment that needs upgraded, and the chiller at the jail needs replaced. Also, heat pumps need replaced at the administrative center. Meyer said the estimated savings in over 20 years is between $730,000 and $1,600,000. All costs will be paid up front by the county and recouped through the savings. Myers explained the items listed on the analysis are not in priority order and not all have been selected. Johnson Controls does their best to work with local contractors. Management Chairman Lyle Barron's informed the committee SmartWatt will have their presentation next month. Also, Preeminent Development sent their updated terms to State's Attorney Jim Devine. Chad McGinnis noted Johnson Controls is the only company thus far that has offered a performance and savings guarantee. Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake reported on the following. Drake began installing LED bulbs in the administrative center. The bulbs in the break room, men's restroom, and all hallways have been converted to LED. Drake anticipates an annual savings of $600 due to the conversion. Fire extinguishers have been inspected. Cell phone use is now prohibited at the courthouse. Signs were ordered for the doors. The mole issue at the administrative center has been addressed. Barron's addressed Drake's maintenance budget and whether he would be able to purchase additional LED bulbs for the building. Drake said with 4 months into the year he is at 22% of his budget. It was moved by McGinnis and seconded by Awful to authorize Drake to purchase additional LED bulbs for the administrative center. Roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. Barron's discussed the courthouse parking lot. Specifications have not been received from the county engineer Joel Moore yet, but the committee can send the project out for bids. It was moved by Awful and seconded by McGinnis to receive bids on the south side of the courthouse parking lot. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. A letter was received from Microgrid Energy regarding potential solar development on the county farm. Barron's reminded the committee there is a lease on the farm for 2 more years. The committee agreed Microenergy should be contacted and make a presentation. Sherry Johnson noted their letter states there is an option to continue using land outside the lease boundary. McGinnis gave an update on office space in the administrative center. He was given an estimate of $2,000 to $2,500 to build the additional office in the animal control office. However, no money is budgeted for building of additional office. Larry Hasbargen stated, Superintendent of Veterans Assistance Jennifer Ingram has clients that will complete the work at no charge. McGinnis said another option is to move Ingram into the animal control office, leave space available for a meeting area for negotiations, and move the county board chairman to Ingram's office. IDA Director Ken Berry and the ICANN office will remain where they are. For this to take place, Ingram will need to cover the cost of building the wall in the animal control office, removing the counter and any electrical or flooring needed. Ingram said she will speak with her board members, but she doesn't see this being an issue. Barron's asked for Ingram to get approval by her board and their building plans to the management committee by next month. Ingram said she has clients that are licensed contractors that are willing to do the work. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Hasbargen and second by Alt to pay claims, subject to county board approval. Motion carried by a roll call vote. During old business, Behrens informed the committee that the cost for salt this season was $21,384. The committee discussed options for future bidding, which include salting of the sidewalk only and requesting the salt pricing be included in the bids. Behrens requested the committee members gather any changes to the snow removal bid form and submit them to Drake. It was moved by Alt, second by Awful to adjourn the meeting at 10:30 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
Motion on the floor to approve the management committee report. Is there a second? Mrs. Awful? Are there any questions or comments about the report?
Right here.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yeah.
Mrs. Awful?
This is directed to Chad. I know, that the veterans need this room too. My concern is also the health department is needing a space, and they have 3 people, and they're in great need because of the privacy issues there. What can we do to, help them too?
I've talked with Dee, after that, and the committee, we need to address it. We need to look and find options, probably also work with health committee to find out what the full needs are, and come up with a good solution to satisfy all of it, because it's more than the 3 rooms. And so we need to really look at a bigger picture but we need to probably work with health committee also.
Before this is decided on the animal control room?
That would be something that the management committee can discuss next month.
Okay.
But the committee, we do have to look at the bigger picture for the health department too.
Right.
And then work with the health committee to see what they feel, make sure that the services that are being provided is what the health committee wants. And then from the management side, we can look at the space required.
Okay.
But the space required is probably more than what that room provides. And we may have to do an in-depth look at all the spaces being used and what ones provide county services that are beneficial, what ones don't, and
Okay,
assess
as long as
everything.
we consider them too, that's my
Yeah,
concern.
yeah.
Okay.
And, I've talked with Dee, so.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else? Okay. Any other questions or comments on the management report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Kokenauer.
Yes.
Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart. Awful. Persley. Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Anderson. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills. Bowman. 17-2, motion carried.
Motion's approved 17-2. Tax Committee, Mr. Sticknoff.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred tax would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on April 3rd, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Sticknot, Crumweedy, Kokenauer, Awful, Persley, and Whitlow. McTaggart was absent. Also present, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, Treasurer Mindy Kuntz-Hagen, IC-PhD Administrator Dee Shippert, IC-PhD Nurse Jane Newell, Animal Control Administrator Dr. Youssef, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Barbara Awful and seconded by Jed Whitlow to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. The committee reviewed the claims. County Clerk Lisa Fancher explained the difference in election judge payments
depends on whether or not they have attended election judge school. Election judges are also paid mileage. It was moved by Whitlow and seconded by Kokenauer to pay the claim subject to county board approval. Motion carried by a roll call vote. There were no public comments. The department heads gave their monthly reports. Treasurer Mindy Coons-Hagan reported her office is currently collecting mobile home taxes. County Clerk Lisa Fancher reported the election officially ends today once the mail is received. The final official results should be available online this afternoon. Fancher said there were not enough ballots received via mail to change the results. In the tax extension department, all work is complete until the final multiplier is received. DevNet has been on site training the new tax extension clerk and assured Fancher they are on track and will be finished by late April or early May. Lastly, there are several new laws that are going to require changes in the recording department. One item is to set a predictable fee schedule, but the deadline is not until 2019. Also, they will eventually need to convert to MIDEC, which is a real estate transfer tax system. Fancher said the office currently uses paper stamps and the new system will be digital. Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler reported he received an email from the Department of Revenue's Equalization Department. Yergler responded to their questions and said there is usually a 2-week turnaround to receive the final multiplier. Yergler said his organization is working with legislature and the energy industry to develop assessment procedures for solar development. Effective January 1st, the assessment office converted to the MIDEC system. Yergler stated they are also waiting on the final tax multiplier. A public notice will be published for those who were involved in the flood. The governor's declaration allows him to apply for assessment relief. Forms are available in his office to being processed. He is currently monitoring the properties that have been deemed damaged. As of now, there are 10 that either need elevated, destroyed, or moved. Further discussion was held regarding flood-related matters. Yergler informed the committee that the county is part of the federal flood insurance program and must adhere to the guidelines of the program. Animal Control Director Dr. Yusuf gave his report for March, which included 7 dogs picked up and brought to the clinic. 1 bat case was reported to the committee. Dr. Yusuf reported his staff received a visit from the Humane Society of Champaign to evaluate the animal control dog's behavior. Tax Chairman Marvin Sticknott informed the committee that Finance Director Anita Speckman has developed a portal where dog owners can pay their registration fees online. The website is www.iroqac.com. It was effective March 23rd and also includes lost dog information and a frequently asked questions section. During old business, Sticknott is continuing to get in contact with the Illinois Animal Control Association about registration. As there were no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Crumweedy and seconded by Offal to adjourn the meeting at 9:44 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, signed by those present, and I move for its adoption.
Motion on the floor to approve the tax committee report. Is there a second? Mr. Crumweedy. Are there any questions or comments regarding this report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart. Offal. Persley. Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknott. Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Anderson. Behrens. Bills. Bowman. Kokenauer.
Yes.
19-0.
That motion is approved 19-0. Health Committee, Mr. Crumweedy.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom is referred health would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on April 2nd, 2018 at 9:49 a.m. Members present, Crumwoody, Kokenauer, Awful, Persley, and Whitlow. McTaggart was absent. Also present, ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert, ICPHD Nurse Jane Newell, County Board Member Sticknott, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Kokenauer and seconded by Awful to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert informed the committee April 2nd through April 8th is designated as National Public Health Week. Shippert reported the Health Department is continuing with flood recovery efforts. There were no updates on the grants and contract spreadsheet. Shippert noted the system that is used to apply for grants may be changing at the end of June. The committee reviewed the program summary report for fiscal year 18. Environmental Health completed 30 inspections and 23 re-inspections in March. There were 2 food complaints investigated and remedied. The Health Department distributed 47 water sample kits, with 17 of them coming back as unsatisfactory. Shippert said they will continue to give free water sample kits until the number of unsatisfactory results decreases. Shippert reviewed the reportable communicable disease investigations with the committee. Shippert noted that she posted information from the Illinois Department of Public Health regarding synthetic cannabinoids on the Health Department's Facebook page. As of April 2nd, there have been 56 reported cases, including 2 deaths linked to an outbreak since March 7th. ICPHD Nurse Jane Newell spoke to the committee about the breast and cervical cancer program offered at the Health Department. Newell explained the program provides free cancer screenings and breast and cervical screenings to women between the ages of 35 and 64. They must be uninsured and live in Iroquois County. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Kokenauer and seconded by Persley to adjourn at 10:36 a.m. All of which is respectfully submitted, signed by all members present, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Health Committee report. Is there a second? Mr. Persley seconds. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Mrs. Shippert.
Where it says they must be uninsured and live in Iroquois County, that needs to be changed to underinsured, because it's not a program. We discussed that I spent some time explaining to the committee that public health is not public aid. This is for all people. So if someone has a deductible that is high, or there are other various reasons, but it's not a program for underinsured, or for uninsured, it's for underinsured. So
Thank you.
Change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Kevin?
Mr. Kokenauer.
Just for clarification, the meeting was on April 3rd, not April 2nd.
Duly noted. So that was our topic for that meeting. Next month, the topic will be wells. Is that true, Dee?
Yes.
Well inspections?
Yes.
We try to have an informative topic every month so that we learn a little bit more about the health department.
Okay, anything else? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart. Awful. Persley. Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknott.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Anderson.
Yes.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer. Absent. Crow. 18-0.
That motion's approved 18-0. Judicial and Public Safety, Mr. Behrens.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Judicial and Public Safety would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the courthouse on April 4th, 2018 at 3 p.m. Members present were Behrens, Crow, Curtis, Lemie, Awful, and Whitlow. Chad McGinnis was absent. Also present, Sheriff Derek Hagan, Probation Supervisor Barb King, State's Attorney Jim Devine, Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines, 911 Director Eric Raymond, Roger Bard, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Jed Whitlow and seconded by Vince Lemie to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Sheriff Derek Hagan informed the committee of 2 additional claims requiring payment. The first claim is for repairs to the damaged squad car, and the second claim is to training reimbursement for a correctional officer. Hagan continued with his monthly report for March as follows. Patrol had 753 calls for service for the month of March. Year-to-date calls for service 1,741. 2017 year-to-date was 1,358, a 28% increase. Booked in 63 prisoners for the month of March. Year-to-date booked in is 138. Average daily population March 16. Year-to-date average population is 17. Year-to-date average length of stay 22 days. Overtime in the jail for March was 199 hours on the schedule. Part-time hours 0. 1 deputy off on workers' compensation. Deputy Sheriff retired in February and an experienced officer was hired as a replacement. The new deputy is now on solo patrol. The 2 new squad cars received in January were marked and equipped. Hagan reported there are 3 vehicles that have been used between the maintenance department and the sheriff's department that are inoperable. The vehicles include a 2002 Ford F-20, a 2004 Ford van, 2000 Jeep Cherokee. Hagan said he contacted Acme Auto Parts about purchasing the vehicles from us. Lastly, Hagan informed the committee he will be presenting salary comparisons to the Finance Committee. The Policy and Procedure Committee recommended salary increases for elected officials on March 29th. Hagan said the sheriff's salary is currently $8,000 less than a lieutenant's salary. This is due to a salary freeze from 2010 to 2014 for the sheriff's position. Probation Supervisor Barb King presented and distributed a proclamation declaring April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. King reviewed the Probation and Court Services Activity Report for March with the committee. It was moved by Lemie and seconded by Barb Awful to approve the proclamation declaring April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Motion carried by a voice vote. State's Attorney Jim Devine reported the trial scheduled for April 23rd has been postponed until July jury calendar. Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines distributed her monthly report to the committee for their review. A total of $67,224.68 was received in fines and fees, and $13,118.18 was received from credit collection partners. 911 Director Eric Raymond distributed the ETSB report for March. Raymond reported he is working with a vendor to get a more substantial report to determine the accuracy of the numbers listed on the ETSB report, specifically the non-emergency numbers. The committee reviewed claims. It was moved by Lemie and seconded by Whitlow to pay the claims, including the additional claims submitted by Sheriff Derek Hagan for the damaged squad car and training reimbursement, subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Lemie and seconded by Awful to adjourn the meeting at 3:27 p.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
Motion on the floor to approve the Judicial and Public Safety Report. Is there a second? Mrs. Awful seconds. Are there any questions or comments on this report?
John, do we have to do the proclamation separate? Is that what we're doing, or is that included?
Why don't you call everybody's attention to it?
Okay, you should have a copy of that proclamation, child abuse proclamation.
It was placed on your desks this morning. So when we approve the report, we're approving this proclamation.
I'm assuming you gave it to the finance committee as well, but I'm thinking about the rest of the board being able to see it. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh.
You gave the comparisons.
Oh, it was in the mailbox?
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
mine
yeah.
wasn't in the mailbox. Okay, well, they assumed I read. Okay, that answers that. And I was just wondering, Derek gives us very detailed report every month, which is good, but basically we attach the reports from the circuit clerk's office and from EPSB and probation, and I'm wondering if it might be more efficient to talk about, include in the report like the deer accident and that, but to also these statistics, to include them as the other departments do in the future. You know what I mean?
Yes, is that,
Forgot to turn on.
we,
Doesn't sound like a problem to me.
Don't you think that?
I guess,
Yep, as long as they provide us with it.
Yeah. Amanda gets copies of that,
she
right?
should have copies of it, yes.
Why don't you tell her
They do that.
to include that, okay?
Okay.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Hasbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
He steps out.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow. Alt. Anderson.
Yes.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis. 18-0.
I have motions approved 18-0. Transportation and Highway Committee report, Mr. Bills.
Mr. Chairman, members of the County Board, your committee, whom referred Transportation and Highway, would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Iroquois County Highway Building on April the 6th, 2018, at 9 a.m. Members present was Bills, Alt, Crow, Ashbargen, Johnson, and Chad McGinnis. Kevin Bowman was absent. Also present, County Engineer Joel Moore, Dan Ribby of Daniel Ribby Trucking, Sandra Brooks with Knoll Construction, Bruce Foss with Iroquois Paving, Robert Oberlund with Prairie Green Township, and Robert Geddes of Lovejoy Township, Cody West with Tri-State Asphalt, and Wendy Davis of the Times-Republic. A meeting was called to order. There was no public comment. County Engineer Joel Moore opened bids for Prairie Green Pipe Culvert Project as follows. Iroquois Paving was $316,816. Daniel Ribby was $306,778. Moore opened bids for culverts for Iroquois County as follows. Metal culverts was $28,118. Contact Engineering Solutions was $28,033. Lastly, Moore opened bids for FOB Oil as follows. Tri-State Asphalt bid $55,500 and a Mosacolt bid $52,500. The bids were taken for review to be acted on later in the meeting. During the public comments, Robert Geddes of Lovejoy Township informed the committee of House Bill 3133 that is currently in committee to do away with townships. Geddes said the bill reads, the duties of the highway commissioners will be assigned to the county board chairman. The claims and financial reports for the month were reviewed. It was moved by Larry Hashbargen and seconded by Sherry Johnson to pay the bills subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. County highway was $87,020. County bridge was $4,152. Township bridge was $9,999. County motor fuel tax was $63,893. Township motor fuel tax was $154,914. The bids for Prairie Green were reviewed and one mathematical error on Daniel Ribby's bid was found. Their bid has been changed to $308,092. It was moved by Donna Crow and seconded by Sherry Johnson to accept the bid from Daniel Ribby Trucking for Prairie Green Road District in the amount of the $308,092. Motion carried by voice vote. The bids for a culvert for Iroquois County were reviewed with no errors found. It was moved by Crow and seconded by Johnson to accept the bids from Contact Engineering Solutions for Iroquois County culverts in the amount of $28,033. That motion carried by voice. The bids for oil were reviewed with no errors found. It was moved by Hashbargen and seconded by Johnson to accept the bids from a Mosacle for $52,500. Motion carried by voice vote. Moore discussed and distributed the plans for the courthouse parking lot. He explained he was asked by the management committee chairman, Lyle Behrens, to create a proposal for the parking lot. Their estimate is slightly over what is budgeted. During old business, Johnson suggested Moore follow up with Finance Director Anita Speckman regarding financial policies. Also, Crow discussed the status of the overpass at Milford. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Charles Alt and seconded by Donna Crow to adjourn at 9:52 a.m. That motion carried, all which is respectfully submitted, signed by all present, and I would move for the adoption of this report.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Transportation Highway Committee report. Is there a second? Mr. Hasbargen seconds. Are there any questions or comments regarding this report? Mr. Persley. Mr. Persley, can you use your microphone?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Mr. Bales, can you hear me?
Very fine, Mr. Coulson.
Good. I do have a question. Now, when you buy this oil, bid on this oil for the county, and you take the bid,
Right.
when does the county pay for that oil? Right away?
After we take possession of the oil?
After you take possession of all the oil?
Yes. Yeah.
How soon? Do you take it like this month, next month, or the month after?
I'd have to check. I don't know if our capacity holds all that one time, so it could be in different sections. We have our own storage container that this oil is also used not only for county, it's also used by the townships. And so townships basically come in, they get the oil, and then they reimburse the county for it. But it makes it much simpler when we got a supply of oil right here, so they don't drive around the world to get oil.
My concern was if, like, the way prices on gas and oil is fluctuating so much that if we took possession of it in 2 months from now, it could likely go up another $1 a gallon, or with any luck could go down. But if it goes up $1 a gallon before we take possession or pay for it, are the bidders still required to, by law, to still have to pay that amount even though they might be losing money?
This bid that we accepted will be honored by the supplier.
So they're committed?
Yeah. We don't play the commodities market with this type of product.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mrs. Crowe,
Was the rest of the board?
can you use your microphone, please? Thank you. Then we can all hear you.
Was Joel going to tell the rest of the board about the plan for the parking lot? Were there papers in that he was going to show them or share with them? Did they get that?
Yes.
Here if you want to see them.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen them.
Lyle has them.
I wanted everybody else to see them.
I just got them right before the meeting, so.
I think that's action that their committee, management committee, was going to address following month.
Next month?
Yeah.
But what, the rest of the board, does the rest of the board want to see that information? That's my whole purpose is communication.
Right. Yeah, I think Lyle has more detailed plans there than he can imagine to deal with because it's done by federal and state specs
Anybody wants to see it,
for a little parking
if you
lot.
want to distribute it, it's a lot to distribute.
I was just talking about Joel's,
This is what he
the
needs.
front page. The front page is what we talked about at Highway.
I'm sure this information will be available to anybody that wants it following the meeting because Lyle will be glad to hand it out to somebody. Charlie, did you have a question?
Joel's report goes to the management committee now. Consideration for approval of doing the job. It's not been approved.
No, it's got to go to management. You know, there's been a lot of people even question little things like, should the parking lot at the courthouse be in much better condition than the road to get to the courthouse? Because that seems to be the biggest problem. But that's not in the county highways jurisdiction, so we won't address that. That would be nice.
Joel didn't want it to be under county highway.
Well, no, it's actually,
Willing to give it to him.
Are there any other questions or comments about the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Johnson. Crumweedy. McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes.
Awful. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond. You didn't say this. Sure.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis. Hasbargen.
Yes.
19-0.
That motion's approved 19-0. Next on the agenda is claims. Everybody has a copy of the claims in front of you. Is there a motion to approve the claims? Mr. Whitlow, is there a second? Mr. Sticknot, are there any questions or comments regarding the claims? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Crumweedy.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
McTaggart. Awful. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Anderson. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Kokenauer.
Yes.
Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. 19-0.
That motion's approved 19-0. Appointments, you all have a copy or in front of you on the agenda, list of the appointments. Is there a motion to approve the appointments? Mrs. Awful, seconded by Mr. Curtis. Are there any questions or comments regarding the appointments? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Appointments are approved. Old business. You want to know about the cages?
I do. And how many we got? They're stored.
I don't have the answer for you, but I'll sure find out and get that information.
That'd be great.
Okay, anyone else have any old business?
I thought we were going to hear from Mr. Cece.
Yep, we are. I first want to know if anyone else has anything. Mr. Cece? Tell us about the status of the flood.
We're drier than we were.
I shouldn't have said something. First, let me address the direct question from Mr. Crumweedy. The costs that I reported to the Finance Committee, those costs came from different entities throughout Iroquois County. So whether it was Iroquois County with the cages, or the Hills Portable Sanitation, or the PPE, or that also costs came from the City of Watseka, damage and debris pickup, also Concord Township and the Village of Woodland, which had significant damage to their well pump and such like that. That's where I came up with that cumulative number of 600 and some grand. I imagine that number is actually higher than what I've reported due to just continued costs that come up. You talk to any road guy, and they will tell you, I'll find out what my damage is in July, something like that. Just how the way roads work. But that's what that number is. Any other questions about that number?
No, I was looking for a total, damage.
Sure.
Figure from the county, it's going to be much higher than that.
And I imagine it will be, but as more costs come in, it'll continue to accumulate. But as I mentioned before, I don't expect this state to request any sort of public assistance from the federal government because I don't imagine the state is going to meet $18.7 million. That public assistance grant program is typically a numbers game, straightforward.
So is there any, since we were declared a disaster area, is there any relief associated with that?
Allow me to get to that. Thank you. The state proclaimed us a disaster, as well as Vermilion, Kankakee County. They got an extension to their deadline to request aid from the federal government. That ends this Friday, so by this Friday we will know if the state requests the federal government for assistance. I mentioned the preliminary damage assessment that I conducted with IEMA, FEMA, and SBA a couple weeks ago. The purpose of that is to hopefully apply for individual assistance grant program through the federal government. That does require a presidential disaster declaration. That would be assistance to homes, not to government entities, unfortunately, but to homes. So looking forward to that. We'll see if that happens or not. Muck out teams are complete. They wrapped up last Friday. So that is good news. I imagine there are a couple outliers. They were not able to help everybody due to circumstances, whether or not they had permission, whether or not they could physically access the home, or whether that home is going to be demolished. Why muck it out when it's going to be demolished, so on and so forth. But personal thank you to those crews, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, Team Rubicon, and Lutheran Emergency Response Team. I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it, that is an essential service to people in need to recover from a flood. Sheds are still planned on being built. A group called International Disaster Emergency Services, a faith-based volunteer group, has been providing sheds to flood victims. They worked this past weekend, and I had to double check with them today, but they may work another coming weekend, whether that's this one or another one, so on and so forth. Those sheds, I'm sure, are valuable to the victims that are receiving them. I am working with the Long-Term Recovery Committee. You've heard a little bit about that. And we have a number of members sitting here today. I'm working on updating the hazard mitigation plan. Had one of my volunteers start working on just the physical transcribing of information from one document to the other. So we'll continue to work on that. And let's see. It's been a newspaper, a couple things about the Illinois Department of Natural Resources receiving money to buy out homes. That is true. Last I heard, that is still sitting on the comptroller's desk. I haven't checked in on it though. If that comes through, what that will be is IDNR offering volunteer buyouts to repetitive flood victims. They will pay fair market value to the homeowner pre-flood. This will be an opportunity for a lot of people that are stuck in a home which keeps flooding. They may not have a way to continue to pay flood damage costs, and it's pretty darn hard to sell a home that continues to flood. So this may be good news for the homeowners. It is not good news for our tax base, because if they do accept a buyout, then there's no affordable housing for a lot of flood victims to go to in Iroquois County. So in my opinion, we do stand to lose some tax base, but flood victims will hopefully get an opportunity to get out of their repetitive flooded home. So it's good for the homeowner. Also, there are a couple grants out there, one $500 and one $1,000 through different real estate groups. If you're looking for more information on that, talk to the Long-Term Recovery Committee, possibly the Communications Subcommittee on that. Looking at you, Rubel. That completes my update unless anybody has any questions. Sir?
Could you refresh that date again about the presidential declaration for disaster?
The state has until Friday to either request or just decide to not request aid from the federal government. After that, there is time which the federal government will take to either approve or deny the request. So we will see. Yes?
Could you explain to us about the Long-Term Recovery Committee and about its inception and how that works or how that came to be?
Yes, ma'am. The Long-Term Recovery Committee is a nonprofit, 501c3, non-government affiliated committee. I work with them, and they work to fulfill the long-term needs of flood victims. I've been working with them since 2015, but they organized just after the 2008 flood. We have done a number of things to help out specific flood victims. We have a number of different subcommittees, communications, spiritual and mental health, finance, executive subcommittee, you're right, and case management, donations. Look at all this help I'm getting today. So on and so forth. In response to the 2015 floods, after initial help was provided to a lot of families, there was long-term needs that started to arise. After the first flood in 2015, we brought in a group called the Long-Term Recovery Committee brought in a group called World Renew, another nationally registered volunteer organization active in disasters, and they helped do an unmet needs assessment. And the Long-Term Recovery Committee took that data and provided some aid after going through some vetting to specific families that needed some things. Sometimes it was appliances, sometimes it was a little help with rent or utility bills, so on and so forth. But all that has to go through not only case management, but then the executive subcommittee who approves funds, so on and so forth. So that is an example of what we have done in the past.
I might add the Long-Term Recovery Committee is entirely dependent upon contributions from outside sources, local people who wish to donate money is particularly welcome. We also solicit funds from any trusts or other grants that might be available, but I think the heart of it's going to come from people in the county who might wish to provide assistance. So anybody that needs additional information can contact Eric or myself or Ken Baragry.
Any other questions concerning flood update? Moving forward, continued activities will be keeping track with what the state and federal government decide concerning disaster declarations and any possible assistance. Continued work with the Long-Term Recovery Committee. At some point, I will also have an after-action meeting to go over how response and immediate recovery has gone with this flood, just something I typically do, to write a final report, and the hazard mitigation plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Is there any other old business this morning? New business.
Just briefly, the finance search committee there, or the committee that we're over, new finance director, if you guys have any people that are on that John talked about earlier, if you got time right after this, maybe we can meet in animal control or in the animal control office just briefly and get a couple ideas together before we take off.
I'm 100% listening. There's not enough, or there's not too many people that want to be on that one. We're okay as far as the open meeting act violation.
I think we're okay. This.
Listen, you need somebody to step out. Get off committee.
Is there any other new business? Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.